When thinking of this idea for the video, there are actually two voices in my head. One that says, why are you pitting the girls against each other? Why male idols will never have this level of comparison? And the other says, well, I do acknowledge the scrutiny that society puts on women, but it's not like I'm insulting the girlies or anything. In addition, this video is only made for the fourth-gen groups, the only generation that the girl groups dominate and the competitions are actually fierce. And the second one wins? That's why we're here to look at the tough battle royale of the fourth-generation girl groups. The video will mainly focus on their commercial success and impact, but I will also yap a lot about other things. Let's waste no more time and go to the ranking. Number 1 is Coming to the Thrones. These are the divas that were, are, and will still probably be at the top of the food chain. They're the closest to the crown, still in the running towards becoming 4th Gen's next top girl group. Number 2 is Lose Their Pace in the Race. These are the girls who were once competing at the top of the pack, but they have lost in the long run because of the crazy competition from the first tier. They had their time and legacy, and we respect it. They are still famous, though, but their relevance is not that strong anymore. Number 3, Struggling to Rise on Top. They are still well known and should have been in the conversation of choosing the 4th gen leader like the aforementioned 2s. But for some reasons they didn't and just became a supporting character. Number 4, Trapped in the Trenches. They are not Nugu, but they just keep being stuck at the lower tier, and it feels like the conversation is leaving them behind and everyone is forgetting about them. Number 5, Reigning the Nugudome. These are the girls that have never really broken out of the Nugudome, but they are at the top of the Nugu iceberg. No one actually knows them except for the ones who are really into Kpop. I actually want to make a tier 6 for the really Nugu groups, but that would make the videos too long, and the audience wouldn't really know or be interested in such groups. Let's start off strong with NMIXX, a group that has such talented members, the most vocally competent group in their generation, I'd say. A strong company support from the big three, and a unique identity as well. They should have been at least in the conversation of being 4th gen leaders if we look at the previous big 3 girl groups. The boy groups market can be different, but for girl groups, the groups from big 3 have always dominated the top 3 or top 5 of their generations. Like we have 2NE1, SNSD, and Wonder Girls for the 2nd gen, and Blackpink, Twice, and Red Velvet for the 3rd gen. That's why after the success of ITZY and aespa, everyone was looking forward to the debut of the other 2 big 3 from JYP and YG. The hype for NMIXX was definitely there when the members showcased their strong talents in performance videos. But for the debut, everyone was like, what is this? People need time to comprehend the group's mixed pop music, which, while establishing for them a strong identity, make the group's commercial success not performing well as expected from a big 3 girl group, especially as a new group after their seniors, Twice and ITZY. They are still popular among the K-pop community, have a strong fan base, and sell a decent amount of albums, though, with their big 3 privilege. But in terms of overall commercial impact, like streams, views, music show wins, they do not compete with the top groups, which I will explain later. With all those reasons, I'll put them in the 3rd tier. This marks one of the first signs of the big 3 decentralization of the 4th gen girl groups market. Okay, Billie is definitely not a Nugu group, right? Not when Ginga Mingayo is kinda popular, Tsuki's fan cam went viral, and Suwa is known to be an all-rounder, XYG trainee, and her siblingship with Moonbin. But I fear that Ginga Mingayo is also their peak. If we look at their Spotify performance, their latest release didn't do well. I fear that the conversation is leaving them behind, and I cannot remember the last time they went viral, which is sad because they also have such a unique sound and talented members. I haven't been following them that much, so if anyone knows more about this, please share what you understand in the comments. I is South Korea's darling. Everyone in the country loves them, but especially the children. Whenever they come back, it's almost guaranteed that a perfect all-kill is given to them. Just debuting in 2021, but they already have 69 music show wins, become one of the best-selling girl groups, and sit at the top of the pack? That's crazy. They may not have a super big international fan base for Spotify streams or YouTube views, But who cares when your home country adores you like a national girl group? When Heya and Exendio didn't get any music show last year, it almost feels like they had passed their primes, until they came back better than ever this year with Rebel Hearts and Attitude. They are still in the running towards becoming K-pop's next top girl group.
Congratulations. You're still in the running towards becoming America's next top model. Take it, please.
I know a lot of mid-Z will not like this and always be defensive, but just hear me out. If y'all just blame the entire downfall of ITZY on the general public and just say, y'all just hate fun, Sneakers is a fun song, or the ITZY's hate train is so forced, you are actually helping JYP Entertainment escape their problems all over again. It's just a problem about the song, but also a problem of branding, identity, and concept cohesion. Let me break it down so that you can see it clearer. Their first 3 comebacks were their prime. Dalla Dalla, ITZY, and Wannabe have all established for them a strong brand identity and become the top girl group of the 4th generation, while also being diverse. The self-love lyrics, youthful concept, strong dance break, crown ending pose. The next 3 made their crown tilted a bit, but they were still at the top with aespa. Like Not Shy suddenly sings about love and has a cowboy concept. Then they become mafias in the morning with a darker concept. Loco was actually the most decent one out of the 3. Then the next 3 are where the problems arise. I have said this once, and I'll say it again. The downfall was not a quick jump just because of Sneakers, but a gradual one by consistently straying away from their identity. Yes, Sneakers disappoints a lot of us by not evolving their concept like what the album trailers have set out to expect, but it still performs well domestically, and kinda comes back to their self-love identity and youthful image. That being said, their international fans start being hesitant with them. Cheshire has such a vague concept and makes people wonder, where are they even going? I understand that Cheshire has a deep meaning for those who appreciate it, but ITZY's known for their simplicity, especially when they have decided to not mature their brand with Sneakers. That's why when Cheshire is a song that needs complex interpretations, the audience loses a sense of their branding. The Kill My Doubt era actually starts off strong when Bet On Me addresses the hate train and has such a mature concept. But they become childish again in None of My Business and Cake. This creates an identity crisis for them and raises the question of, do they want to mature or not? The Born to Be an Untouchable era actually made it right by actually being fully edgy and confident, but it was kinda too late, and was a OT4 comeback. But then Gold is low-key a mixed pop song. A lot of mid-Zs will always make an excuse of, why do you hate when a group diversifies their concept and isn't boring? There's a way to diversify without losing your identity. Look at Red Velvet, aespa, and IVE. ITZY fails to do it, and when the 4th gen actually started with stronger competitors, they are not in the conversation anymore, despite having a legacy of opening the 4th gen. Damn, I really yap a lot about the group. I actually have only listened to High-Key once and really like their EP, Let It Burn. They have a distinguishable sound. I know that they low-key almost have a hit with Rose Blossom, but let's be real, they are still in Nugudom, on top of it though. And I hope that they can break out of it soon, like what Kiss of Life has done last year.
STAYC girls is going down.
STAYC could have it all. The general public, both Korean and global, adored them for refreshing the cute teen crush concept, quality yet catchy sound, and that catchphrase.
STAYC girls is going down.
They peaked commercially at Run To You, and while Beautiful Monster kind of flopped, it shows a maturity and growth for the girls as an artist. The international fans were kinda expecting that they will grow their sound after this era until they pull another Sneakers with Teddy Bear and Bubble. Now, STAYC's identity regressed and even became more childish with this kids' bop music. Don't get me wrong, the sound of these songs still have STAYC elements to it. But with the build-ups from previous comebacks, STAYC was targeting teens and gradually growing with them to become a young adult. Teddy Bear and Bubble feels like they are targeting children. I still like parts of these songs, and this youthful sound still performs well in Korea, but they have lost a little bit of sparks among international fans. For Cheeky Icy Thang, I actually am a defender of the song. It is experimental, not gonna lie, and the lyrics are questionable. But at least they try something new while also coming back to their teen crush essence. Of course, that's not enough, right? Now that they came back where they started, it's time to actually evolve. And thank God they did and didn't pull another ITZY move. Both GPT and BB grow their sounds, concepts, and lyrics in such a STAYC but mature way. I will give them their flowers where it's due. But whenever a group changes their concept into a mature one, it will take time for the audience to take in, and I just hope that high-up entertainment doesn't rush and expect instant commercial results with just a few comebacks. Trust them, and never come back to kids' bop music. With all that yapping, with their OG's hits, they could have been at the tops, but for now they need more time to master this new identity.
I'm like some kind of supernova.
I would say that aespa is the only group on this list that has two peaks in their career. Firstly, in 2021, Next Level, Savage, and the entire EP has established for them such a strong identity and brought such commercial success. They even flew straight to the top and kinda dethroned the queen of the generation at the moment, which is ITZY, just a year after debut, which is crazy. But because the bar was too high, a lot of people were disappointed with Girls as it kind of failed to reheat some nachos from her older sister. Then it got even worse when they disappeared for 10 months straight. And this was the pitfall of SM's Girls on Top model. 'Cause why do you put your best performing group at that moment on hiatus just to borrow two members for your Avenger team that only performs well commercially initially because of the novelty of generational legacy? Look at the stats. No one actually cares about that supergroup if their OG groups aren't treated right. And don't let me start with the entire drama between Hybe and SM later on. Anyway, STAYC kinda did an okay job in bringing them back and still managing to help them compete in the same room with the influx of new strong monster rookies. Drama, though, was the actual pedal that drove them to their next peak last year. And from now on, it will just be hits after hits after hits. Drama became their best performing song internationally. Supernova literally is the biggest hit of 2024 when multiple D songs were given. Armageddon is arguably objectively their best song and sets their bars even higher for their identity and sound. Whiplash could have achieved another perfect all-kill if it wasn't for APT. They are unstoppable right now. If we look through the list right now, I don't think it's crazy to say they are the most stable and can have the most longevity if we really think about it. Most SM groups, although might fluctuate ups and downs through years, have better long-term success than their peers. Look at their seniors like SNSD, Red Velvet, FX. And the members are talented as well with strong vocal, strong individuality while also harmonizing with the aespa concept. aespa never really chases trends, they set them. No weak vocals, no TikTok short music, no generic melody. And that's why they are at the top in the long term. I think what they just need right now is a cohesive album like how they did with Savage. Don't get me wrong, their latest songs are fire. But if we put those singles in their respective albums, they are not really matching. I only said that because SM has a history of making decent and good albums, okay? So the expectations are high with their current level of success.
Everglow forever, let's go.
You just have to be there for Everglow. They just put out bangers and bangers and bangers. They were so hungry to serve, literally as they were still not being paid after 6 years. Back in 2019 and 2020, it felt like they were only behind ITZY in terms of international success. Look at their YouTube views or Spotify streams. Yes, they were abandoned in their hometown, but they had such an attractive identity to grow internationally with that warrior concept, noise music, and such diva performances. But then after the pirate era, they went on a crazy long hiatus that even surpassed Blackpink at that time. I think it was because of Yiren coming back to China or something, and Chinese idols had a history of coming back and never returning. So a lot of people were worried that this might be the end of Everglow. 2 years later, thank God, they confirmed their comeback with Slay. But the song definitely was not good enough to justify such hiatus and made zero noise. It still retained a lot of Everglow's warrior essence, but weaker and cringier with the English lyrics. And they came back again in 2024 with Zombie, a sudden change in identity with a haunting concept and slower sound. And with previous examples, we know what happens when you pull an ITZY. The numbers were not numbering anymore. And also, I thought they were hungry to come back after a 2-year hiatus. Why are they now only coming back once every year? It was so ironic that both EVERGLOW and ITZY were both competing for the throne, and now both of them lost their paces in the race. Purple Kiss is such a sad case of graduating from Nugu just to come back to it. 'Cause why the fuck are they competing in an AI survival show? Look, I don't know the group's lore that much, but after rewatching their releases, analyzing the data, and doing some social listening, it seems like incohesive concepts are the problem again. The groups are more known for their dark and spooky concept, but their later on bubbly releases just confused a lot of their fans. But I think their latest comeback, Highway, was kinda on brand for them, and I just hope that they can regraduate again, because they are already so popular in Nugu. Weeekly is a perfect example of a one-hit wonder and wasted potential. I thought at least they would try to reheat some nachos from after school to establish a solid identity first, because it was so successful. What STAYC was doing was what I thought Weeekly would do, and now STAYC became the actual player in that cutesy and teen fresh territory, and Weeekly was also trying to do that with some later releases, but overall, it was all over the place without a strong identity. That's why they're losing their names in the conversation.
I give a second chance to Cupid.
Speaking of one-hit wonder, we also have 50/50. We all know the drama, so let's not repeat it here. But we can also all agree that despite being from such a small company, they have such a strong identity, before or after restructuring, right? The romantic concept, love lyrics, and such heavenly melody. And let's not forget the biggest hit of the 4th gen Cupid. Then they were even featured in the Barbie movie soundtrack. They truly could have had a brighter future and competed at the top if not for the scandal. After the split, it felt like the group's identity got split into half, whereas the new 50/50 maintains their sounds and concepts, while Bloom has the heavenly vocals that make people love them in the first place. They are split 50/50 just like their name LOL. Anyway, they are in the 3rd tier. BLACKSWAN has never failed to amaze me because of how resilient they are in the industry. They went from Rania, a group dating back to the 2nd generation with tons of members, to BLACKSWAN with 5 members in the 4th gen, and now became one of the most special K-pop groups with all 5 members being non-Koreans. A lot of people know them, actually, only because of that fact, but don't really support them. And not only did they have to survive from the constant lineup change and the lack of Korean member privilege, they were going through a lot of scandals too, from scamming to bullying among former members. Those were the teas that I learned during my research. What I really appreciate about their resilience, especially of Fatu, is that they managed to sustain long enough to also see other foreign K-pop adjacent groups with darker skin idols enter the industry, like ITZY or VCHA. I just wish the group could be more well-known like them, but considering all those hardships and their small company, it's very unlikely to happen soon. ITZY is a part of the I-Trinity in the beginning of the 4th gen alongside ITZY and another group I will discuss later. Let's be real, ITZY would still stay at the top if they didn't disband. Their sales numbers even surpass big 3 peers. They were the most impactful project group, even with those rigging scandals. But I also see a beauty in their disbandment, the beauty of impermanence. You know when you follow a TV show series where it should have ended way earlier, but the producers just keep dragging it longer to ruin the show? ITZY knew how to disband in the most graceful way possible. All of their Korean releases have a purpose. The birth, the rise, the climax, the sign of coming to the end, and the actual ending. Even when they left, their legacy can still be found in the most successful girl groups right now like IVE and SSERAFIM, or the promising soloists like Eunbi or Yena. They master the art of being a temporary group, and while they have left the conversation one their own choice, their legacy has to be respected. We have talked about IVE, and IZY, so we can't forget LIGHTSUM, right? I can't believe the Coachella hate train still follows them to this year and people still think they are a flop. If we just look at the statistics, they are still the best performing group at the moment in terms of streaming on this list. And now that we're on the topic of hate trains, I want to address another stupid discourse that stan Twitters are stirring around them. The trend hopping allegations. Do I think that they have a problem of incohesive sonic identity? Yes. Apart from their intros, which are very runway coded, and the members using their native languages, their title tracks kinda lack those unique identities. Don't get me wrong. The lyrical identity of self-love and confidence, and the visual identity of angel Christianity and sporty model-esque chicness were very consistent in what they are well known for. It is the sonic identity of their main song that was the problem. But the way stan Twitters twist it to accuse them of just copying whoever artist is popular at the moment is crazy. Y'all spent your time just editing some photos and clips just to make Hot look like Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter's? And crazy sounds nothing like Brat, you dumbasses. Anyway, I just hope that they can recover soon in terms of public perception because, boy, both the Korean and international fans were tearing them apart last year. High B privileges can still support them in the competition at the top, but even though they are the biggest corporation right now, they are still new money, while the big three has way more connections of media and political powers. They are still in the running towards the top, but a lot of effort will need to be done to win public perceptions. Kep1er is a perfect example of the glass cliff phenomenon in K-pop. I mean, every girl group coming out from Emmett's survival shows they were all experiments to test out the water for the later boy groups to succeed. But I feel like for Kep1er specifically, their survival show was coming back after the huge rigging scandals of both ITZY and X1. I don't really think Weeekly had a clear vision for the group. With the name Kep1er and their show, Girls Planet 999, I really thought they would go all the way in for space, stars, galaxies, cosmic concepts like LOONA or Cosmic Girls. But they rarely touched it, or touched it in a basic and boring kind of way. Comebacks after comebacks, they kind of lost their marks among public eyes. Wadada is their debut song, but also their most successful one, which is kind of sad. What's even sadder is that the one time that they actually made it right with the star concept and good music is also their last OT9 comeback. I really love that album. Now that they're OT7, I do think that this change might be good for their long run, and the contract being resigned was actually the best results that we could have never expected, and it was the first time a survival show group from Mnet did this. The only bad thing is that Mashiro and Yeseo had to go back to their company and debuted in a group that had a member being sexually assaulted by their CEOs. Yikes. Anyway, with all the hype of following up IOI and ITZY, the expectations were there for them, and they had shown up strong for their debut, but haven't really shown out in the long run. That's why they are also in the third tier. NewJeans, or NJZ, always takes the world by storm. K-pop was literally never the same after each of their comeback. I'm not saying that many groups copy them, like whatever tricks Minhee Jin used to trigger bunnies, but their influence is there and can definitely be found on a generic scope. And if we really talk about numbers, all of their albums sell millions. They occupy most of the top streamed songs from their generations, and they reached countless hours of perfect all kills in Korean charts. Individually, they were never that strong, but as a group, with the help of that bitch/genius Minhee Jin, they were unstoppable. Until the recent dramas that everyone knows and just wants it to come to an end already. All of the adults around have failed them. I don't even have a clear answer of the best outcome for them to do in this case because it is such a mess. But anyway, influence alone, they are at the top of their generation. Classy was one of the first proof of the inflation of survival shows in recent years, and nobody really cares about survival shows that much anymore, with all the rigging voting and scoring systems. And specifically with My Teenage Girl, the problem also literally lies in its name. A lot of minors and children in the group. Yikes. But at the end of the day, it's still about their music and concept, right? Which is also outdated and not really that unique. We have moved on from this type of sound. My suggestion is that they should hire Soyeon, the one who trained them, to write them a song. I am not saying that Soyeon is the best producer, but she understands the market so well and knows the strengths of the group to give them a potential better performing song, like how she did it with her group or CLC and Cure. But until that, Classy is still a queen in Nugudom. LOONA is such a weird case. As an Asian, I didn't even know that the group was that popular in the West until my friends just kept spamming Stan LOONA. And I had to do some research. Like, damn, they really even broke some records here before the big three girlies. But beyond that, they shaped the international K-pop fans' meme cultures. The amount of trending memes or lies that orbits have made to promote LOONA on the internet has to be researched and put in history books because they are so consistent. But you already know that a strong international fan base doesn't always translate to strong support in Korea or Asia in general, if we compare the numbers. They were one of the top groups in the West while kinda struggling here. Conceptually and musically, they were one of the best groups in K-pop, but if we talk about the overall commercial success, they are in the third tier. I feel like Fromis 9 is the only hype group that was neglected, because why didn't they do big numbers like the rest of their label mates? I knew that a lot of the Korean general public didn't like them because of the rigging scandals back in their survival shows, and there are also a lot of mismanagement dramas from their company. But I just think that their music is too good to be neglected like this. Unlock My World was one of the best K-pop albums I have ever heard. They should have been more successful. And I don't know if they can be that anymore, now that they're kinda split and don't really know if they can keep their name. I'm a top super lady. I-DLE is the final piece of the I-Trinity. If ITZY officially opens the fourth generation and ITZY influences the second half of the generation with SSERAFIM, then I-DLE is the survivor who is competing at both eras. When ITZY disbanded, ITZY and EVERGLOW lost their spot. LOONA got into hiatus because of scandal. I-DLE is still here to compete with IVE, SSERAFIM, aespa, NewJeans. I feel like a lot of international K-pop fans neglect and always don't want to include them in the conversation because of how they are not really that big in the West. Please stop this Western-centric mindset and look at their global influence. Who even survives a career-ending scandal with 4 consecutive perfect all-kills comebacks? Especially from a small company? Cube is not that small, but its management has ruined many groups. And even starting as an almost Nugu group, their sales numbers and YouTube views are organically growing and competing with the big groups. If South Korea adores IVE because of Wonyoung, Japan adores SSERAFIM because of Sakura, then I-DLE is competing with BTS and Blackpink in China because of Uki. Do you know how crazy it is to rub shoulders with the biggest groups in the world? I really have to give credits to Soyeon for leading the group at the top for this long, because when a girl group starts small from a non-big 4 company, their growth and success are not really stable. But I-DLE has been doing that for 3 years now, and they just can't ever die. Remember when I said if it's not I-DLE, no one else can survive Cube's poor management? LIGHTSUM is a perfect example. Their music is not that bad, but there's nothing really special about it or the concept. What is your identity? What new things do you bring to the table? Unfortunately, they are still a queen at Nugudom, alongside with the following groups that I will have to speedrun because I am too lazy to deep dive into them since no one really cares. Rocket Punch, Try B, Secret Number, Cherry Bullet, CSR. So, that's it. Looking at the ranking right now, we can clearly see that. The first tiers are the girls who are still competing. We Vietnamese often call them the 5 Dragon Princesses, and I am so glad that we did that. Because I don't why international and Korean fans always have to choose the big 3 girl groups of the generations, when the fact is that multiple successful groups can coexist at once. The second tier are the girlies who were battling at the top back in the first half of the generation. The third are the ones with great potential but underdeveloped. The fourth are struggling to really get recognition, while the final ones don't even get any at all. I may move LOONA and Fromis9 from the third tier down to the fourth tier, because I feel like what differentiate these two ranks is the fact that the third tier group at least has some chances. Like, they have one foot at the door to be at the top, but they just miss it. Like, NMIXX is a big three group, STAYC has back-to-back hits, and they just need one more to solidify their positions. 50/50 has the biggest hit of the generation, the Barbie deal, and could have way more if they weren't split. Kep1er having a decent debut and being a survival show group after the huge success of I-OI and ITZY. But for LOONA and Fromis9, the chances were never really there, in my opinion. Like, yes, LOONA has a kinda big international fan base, but their lore concept and how they position and promote their identity have never really given the hope for them to compete with the big groups. Same with Fromis9. Yes, they were from HYBE, but when they debuted or when Pledis Entertainment joined HYBE, the concept of Big Four privilege and expectations were never really there. And also, both of these groups are on hiatus and split with some contract problems, so the chances are even lower than before. A lot of the war metaphors in this video are just for exaggerations. No one really has to fight to death here. What are your thoughts? Is there anything you agree or disagree with? Do you think their ranking can be changed in the future? Please let me know in the comments to keep this conversation going. But for now, thank you and goodbye.